This is Nina Lockwood. Welcome to Get Your Happy Back. Stories and insights that will inspire you to find new sources of happiness in your own life. Hi, and welcome to Get Your Happy Back. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of talking with one of my greatest pals, Bonny Boice. Hi, Bonny.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, as usual, I'm just going to give a little snippet of Bonny's bio. It's a lot of B's in there. And then we'll
add
just
the last name in there too, Bonny Boice bio.
That's right. And then we'll just jump into our conversation. So Bonny is a certified professional coach. She's got a bachelor's in business administration. She's got a master's in management with a concentration in nonprofit leadership. And she's had enormous success coaching leaders and facilitating organizations to achieve their vision. So Bonny and I met a couple years ago at a conference at Women at Work, where we were both speakers and we were both talking about coaching. And Bonny comes from a much more business-oriented background than I do, which is a little more on the woo side with creativity and psychotherapy and energy medicine and all that. But we had a great conversation, and I think because we hadn't met before that it was a real treat discovering, oh, wow, a fellow traveler. How fun.
Yes, it was fun.
So here's my start off question for you. Is there a formula for happiness?
You know, I've been spending time thinking about this, right, since you asked me to join you today. And, happiness existed right when you and I did that workshop together, right? We just interacted with another human being and we developed a connection,
Yeah.
right? So I think happiness is an inside job where we need to spend time on ourselves. But I think true happiness comes with just human connection.
I guess that's it. Thanks for coming. I think we're both on the same page with that. We have a spiritual teacher who we both enjoy, Rupert Spira, who basically said happiness is our basic nature, and that really we're just seeking an outlet for its expression. And as you say, it comes through connection.
Yes. What's interesting is, Rupert Spira, you introduced me to Rupert Spira when I was so blessed to take one of your programs, right? And what was great about me interacting with you is like what you've already said, like I have all this experience in the business world and leading people. And it took me a while to realize I even liked people, right? Because I thought, and so as I matured, I became more and more aware that all that really matters is the human connection, like we're saying, right? So Rupert Spire's evaluation of like the importance is love, right? And it's our own self love. And then once we do the inside job where we really do have some self love, right, we can then give our love out to everybody else. So, I know you're the energy person, but I've always feel like I could feel someone's love. I could feel the energy coming from them, that they're listening to me, like they're interacting with me, like the basic human person just needs to be seen, heard, and understood, right? And when that happens, like we flourish.
Magic.
Yes, it is magic.
Yeah. So just as an aside, every time your name comes up in a conversation, everyone talks about how great you are and how helpful you've been and how you've really heard them and seen them and given them exactly what they needed. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, that really hits me right here, right in the heart and in my soul, because, you know, leading this life where I was in charge of a big enterprise, right? And then understanding as doing that, like I was an achieving person, right, for a really long time. And then I realized it's not about my achievement, it's about how can I help other people be the best that they're supposed to be, right? And when you shift to be about another person, you free yourself up a little bit, right? And then you stop comparing yourself with everybody else, right? There's this one poem that I really thought I really wanted to read out loud. Um, and it's really fascinating to me, this young Pablo who's like got all this interesting stuff about life. Um, but it's about not comparing yourself and where happiness really comes from, right? It's, I'm trying to figure out how to like lead us to even talk about this poem because I took this certification in positive psychology, at Kripalu Institute, and it was an 11-month program. And then I went back and I was a teacher's assistant for 11 months. And so I really got grounded in the science of happiness, right? And, Marty Seligman says that, you got to flourish, right? So to flourish, we all flourish in our own way. So if we're comparing ourselves to other people, right, we're not doing the inside work to understand what do I want to do? What makes me feel like I'm engaged and I'm doing the best that I can. And I think what you're saying to me about what other people say about me is I'm showing up just trying to be with them.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And there's something that you reminded me of when you talked about comparison, which is that we live in a culture that is so predicated on how much and how well you produce, right? A form of commodification. So it's almost inherent in that system that we compare ourselves to, well, how am I doing? Well, how are they doing? Am I doing what they're doing? Am I doing better, I bet, or worse? So it leads into a real downward spiral of so much pressure we put on ourselves to be as good as someone else. And that diminishes, I think, our ability to be present with another person.
Totally, totally. So, I just mentioned young Pablo a few minutes ago, and he's a poet, and I'm just going to read you this one poem just because of what you just said, because this is the nuts of what we have, the inside job that we have to do, right? It's how many times has your mind taken a small piece of uncertain information and spun it to a story around it that ends up in consuming all your thoughts, right? How many times has your mind taken a small piece of an uncertain information, right? Not even like you don't even like you're just grabbing it, right? And you spun a story around it, ending up consuming your thoughts, right? So when I think about the younger Bonnie, right? I spent a lot of time with just that. Like, what do they mean by that? Like, why did they do that? Like, why is that happening? Right. And then you make a story up and then you believe you're right. And so as I've aged, the greatest question I realize I can ask myself is, how can I be wrong?
That's so great. What a good question. This totally runs against what anybody would think they should ask themselves.
Right. Yeah. Like, how can I be wrong?
Mm. I
Because
want
it's
to
in
go
the
back.
comparison that we're really wrong, right? Like,
Yes, in making the
I,
comparison.
you and I, when we met each other, I could have compared myself to you right up there with all those people listening to you and I could have spent all my time not being confident, not being calm, and not being happy and in the moment, right? I could have been, oh my God, she's so much smarter than me. Look at how she's dressed. Like I could go in a million ways, but I had to teach myself over time to say to myself, Bonnie, you're calm, confident, and happy. Just stay in the present moment, right? But I catch myself today still comparing myself to somebody else, right? Because we're just human, permission to be human.
Right. You also reminded me of something earlier when you were talking about self-love. I did a podcast recently with Sabrina Masso, and she surprised me by saying, when we were talking about happiness and happiness as a precursor to our next step, or even being in the present moment, she was asking the question, what do I love about myself? And it was the first time I'd really thought about happiness in that way.
Yeah.
Like she was talking about how much she loved being greeted in the morning by her pugs, and the fur and the excitement and the waggy tails. And that she realized there were so many things she loved about. It wasn't personal. It was that she could love that tactile experience, or that she could love uh, a sunset or something that was a capacity, but it wasn't about her personality, really. And I thought that was really an interesting perspective, because usually we say happiness depends on, who we hang out with and what we do. And yes, of course, to some degree that's true. But if it's not predicated on that innate happiness, what are we doing?
Yeah. So when I heard her podcast, because she's such a fabulous human being, right? Um, I also I've listened to what she said, and I felt like she was talking about how she herself, and this is where the inside work, how she started to identify where can I discover joy in my life, right?
Yes.
And that's if you discover joy, you can actually empower your life
Mhm.
because you can start finding it in every moment. It exists. Like you have something in your life right now to give you joy, right? And that's some of the stuff that the science of happiness has done, all the researchers have done, is to realize that we do have choice. And she was articulating how she has the choice to recognize the things that are already in her life that bring her joy, right? And they know that we can be joyful by just being in awe.
Mhm.
And so being in awe, that's the inside work. Some people are in awe listening to music. Some people are in awe going on top of a mountain. Some people are all just like watching the sunrise, right? But if we could just start to embrace in this moment right here, right now, I already have like positive resonance, pops of joy that can come into my life. And it's just in the recognizing that you can be a little more happier.
So, do you think that is one of the obstacles that we have to being happy or being happier? Is not being
So,
able to look for those kinds of things, because it's like cell receptors, right? We've got the thing in there and we're looking for the I don't know the right word for it, but you know what I mean. We
yes,
already
yes.
have the capacity, otherwise we wouldn't recognize the things that bring us joy.
Yeah, well, where our brain is programmed to find the negative. So the inside job is to like recognize what we can do to leverage what's been given to us, right?
Mm.
Our mind and our body produce our emotions. Like there's so much the inside work is like understanding my mind and my body are constructing my emotions, which means I can deconstruct them or I can construct the ones I want.
Exactly.
And so what Sabrina was telling us is she's constructing emotions by when she's walking down the stairs, she's just recognizing herself, oh, there's my little pugs, right?
Yeah. I love that point that you're bringing up, because we may have talked about this before, but there's a wonderful cycle that Joe Dispenza discusses about how it all starts with our thinking, whether it's on a conscious or a subconscious level, right? So we have a thought, the thought triggers an emotion, the emotion triggers biochemicals in the body, and then that triggers behaviors. And because we're stuck in the drama of that thought, we go right up to the same thought, the same emotions, the same biochemicals, the same behaviors. And the best way to break that cycle is how we're thinking. So if we're thinking about where is it? What we're looking for it, we're looking to express it. It's like you open a champagne bottle, it's boom, it's ready to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all choice. But
Yeah.
can we be self-aware enough to know that we have the choice, right?
Ah, yes.
Like the biggest thing I learned when I took those 11 months positive psychology program was choice. So
Mm.
like anyone who I've ever coached, I say all the time, and you had a choice in that. And then they stop and they're like, I had a choice, right? Yeah. So if we're self-aware, where we can use the power of the pause,
Mm.
if we can pause and reflect or notice, either one of those things, I can reflect on what I'm thinking or I can notice something else around me, right? And then I can move forward with grace.
That question about whether we have choice, I think is so powerful because if you look at what our culture tells us, we are a victim of our biology or our genetic biology. We're a victim of circumstance. We have very limited opportunities. All of the rules that we're given about what we can and cannot do.
Right.
That puts us in this position of, well, do I really have choice, and where is that choice coming from? Is it coming from my conditioning, or is it coming from something more authentic in me?
And yeah, I think when we lose our own agency is when we start to spiral, right, into the negative, right? Where when we give ourselves permission to be human and we give other people permission to be human, right? And understand that some of our mind and our body are working the way they're working because that's the way humans work, right? But we do have the power to be self aware and to self reflect and to make a choice. It's just that we have to breathe and pause once in a while and say, who do I want to be in the next moment, right?
Mhm.
How do I want to show up going forward, right? Because we have to stop some of those stories that I was talking to you about. Like, that story's not true,
It's all made up.
right? I got to leave that story behind, right? And I have to now move forward with like just being more aware of what's really happening. Yeah, it's interesting that oftentimes in my life, I didn't think I had a choice
Yes.
and I was just running on autopilot, right? And when did I notice something different, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think all of us, like, we get nudges, right? We get insight, we get something that wakes us up enough to say, wait, is that really what I want to be doing? Is that really how I want to go? Right? It's in
Where
the
did that
waking
happen
up.
for you?
Oh my gosh, several times in my life it's happened for me, right?
Yeah.
I can think of at a very young age. Like, so I grew up on a dairy farm, right, where we were working. Like that's work. That's how I was raised,
Real
right?
work.
Real work. So I was very achievement focused, right? I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew I wanted to get a degree. I know. But at the same time, when I was in high school and some of that stuff was happening, our house actually burnt down, right? So there was a real awakening for me, right? When that happened to our family, right? And I became very aware of the things that really mattered.
Mm.
And so since I took that with me, right? So that's one example of something I took with me.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then I can think of it, I can think of like every few years something happens where you like I lived through a divorce and I had to navigate being a single parent and I had to, you know, change my identity of what I was saying to myself. I'm no longer a wife and a mother. I'm now the single woman working at this job, blah, 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 blah. And I had to figure out what does that mean for me? And so my meaning then was the ultimate result of all ambition was a happy home. I just kept saying to myself, like, the reason why I'm working so hard is so I have a happy home because I didn't want to forget that that's what the most important thing to me was, right? So sometimes I think like our happiness is can we really understand what our strengths are? Can we really understand what we value? And can we show up with them, right? It's when we're not being authentic to ourselves, right? So I remember one time driving down the road, after the kid's dad moved out, after like a couple of years, and I was still like I was carrying this like feeling of I was a complete failure, right? No one around me would have thought I felt like, but I remember one day saying to God, could you please just take this from me? And like it went. Like I felt it leaving my body. Like I learned that I can ask to let some stuff go.
That's powerful.
Powerful, right? So there's like, I'm like, I can go on with some more ones, but there's been times when like I was woken up. Like I am not in control. I am connected to the universe, right? That's like there's something bigger than me. Like you and I are connected. I feel that's like I feel like there's a freeing feeling when you're not in control of so much, right? Some let some of this go.
Right. That's another point that I'm going to get to in a rather roundabout way about what Rupert Spira speaks about is like when there's love, connection, and happiness, there's no separation.
Right.
You're just one. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you can feel that, when you feel that, this is why I love Rupert Spira because he like brought me back to the realization of what that feeling is like, right? And his whole thing of non-duality is like we can go there anytime we want to go there. We can just go to the place of peace inside ourselves,
Yeah.
which is powerful.
Yes.
Because
Remember
when
that
you
book?
go there,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Because when you go there, you let go of so many things that you're hanging, your whole body like loosens up.
Yeah, because it's not who you really are.
Yeah.
It's
So
funny.
what book?
Oh, do you remember a book that came out in, oh my gosh, it was decades ago called If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him?
No.
I know it doesn't sound very good, but the premise of the book was essentially that you don't need the teachers to tell you what to do. So you need the teachers to point you back to yourself, but not to put them up on the pedestal and revere them. And not that we can't appreciate them, of course, because there are certainly many teachers that we've had along the way with whom we've had profound experiences, but it's that going back to ourselves. And if we're not, and I actually think that you must have been reading my mind before we started this conversation, because so many of the things I was thinking to ask you about, we've already been talking about, like we just
Interesting.
naturally. So I'll try one
Interesting.
that maybe you hadn't thought of.
Great.
What do you think are the main reasons that we lose this sense of authenticity and well-being over time? Because those are all connected to happiness. But
Yes.
what do you think are the main reasons?
Why we lose our own well-being, why we get,
We lose our own sense of authenticity and well-being.
well, I think because we're not staying. So I'm going to tell you this from my perspective now, at the age I'm at now, right?
Yeah.
And I want everyone listening to this to understand like some of this comes with all those experiences I already talked about, right? Like there's just been, so the biggest thing for me, and I often am coaching people to be more self-aware, to do a lot more self-reflection than they were up until we started talking to each other. And to really guide yourself to what you want to do next. And self-reflection could be just in the moment, it could be journaling. So I have found that really taking time to think about how did that go? Who do I want to be when I go to this next thing? Like, and like being more purposeful about leading my own self
Mm.
and noticing when I'm with people that it seems like the energy's off or something's not going right, and just pay more attention to what's going on, right? We lose ourselves because we stop to check in with ourselves.
Say more about that.
You can become on autopilot, right? You build habits and you build structured stories that you've been telling yourself, and you build how you want your day to go, right? And you can just get on autopilot. I mean, the reason why our brain has autopilot is we wouldn't get anything done if we didn't have it. So we've built all these programs And once in a while, we need to stop and say, how are those working for me? Because days can go by and weeks can go by without you saying, how did that go?
Right? It's like being driving in a car and you're going somewhere, you don't even think about what you just automatically, the car seems to be taking it on by itself and you're not even thinking, okay, I should take this route. It's all autopilot.
Yeah. Because we know our body. So for well-being, we know our body needs certain things, right? It needs sleep, it needs water, it needs good nourishment, and it needs to move. And guess what else? It needs to breathe, right?
So good.
And our brain needs good information coming in. So what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you giving yourself brain on a reoccurring basis to keep it growing and thinking? Because we know we're negative focused, right? How can we overcome that, right? Not go to the rumination of everything all the time. So, sometimes you're like you didn't eat right, so then all of a sudden that whole day you're on edge, right? And you're wondering, why am I on edge? And then you can make up a whole story why you're on edge, because your husband did something to you, right?
Right. At
And the
least
next thing
one
you know,
story.
yeah. And the next thing you know, you're looking for more of that. All of a sudden you're in this like, look at what they did. Right now you got this whole thing going on, right? And it really was just you didn't eat something for lunch, right? Because so checking in.
Yeah.
I think we need to check in more. I constantly tell myself, when was the last time you checked in? I even wrote it down just yesterday. I wrote, oh my gosh, I haven't really journaled in like a whole 2 weeks. I've got to get back to journaling, right? Because for me, journaling works, right? But it doesn't for everybody. For me, journaling works. Like I can sit down and ask myself a question and go someplace with it.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that I'll address this particularly for women, uh, but I'm sure it's true for men too, that if you're a person who is very type A, who's very left brain, everything is, you're known for being strategic, for planning, for organizing, for really, you know what's coming, right? Really using that side of your brain, that it's a little bit uncomfortable for that personality, that person to go into this place that they may call vulnerable, to actually check in with their feelings.
So I recognize who you're talking about, right? Yeah. So it was only with life events that helped me learn to become more and more vulnerable, right? So I got a divorce. And then when I was 48, I had thyroid cancer. So when I had thyroid cancer, it was the first time in my life I ever felt anxiety.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, I had all these different things that before that point, I thought I never realized that, your chemical imbalance could have been really impacting. So your mind and your body produces your emotions. Some of it is things that you don't have control over.
Yes.
I had to start journaling back then because I was like, what is going on with me? Right. And I knew that they hadn't got the medicine right for me yet, but it's like just experiencing that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you're this person who is all about achievement and let me just keep going. I got my to-do list. I got to do. It's hard to stop and say, am I happy with how things are going?
Right. Because first of all, you're going to say, of course not. Right. I don't have any choice. Of course not. My body is doing this. My boss is doing this. Life is doing this. But to be
Right.
able to,
So
yeah.
yeah. So my tagline on my website is like discover your joy and empower your life. And that is what I picked up when I went through thyroid cancer. I realized in that moment, I got to find more joy. Like my sister Debbie would make me these amazing muffins. And my father would bring them to me in this like little basket, right? And it was in the period of time when I couldn't eat certain things because, you're trying to do a lot of things when you're going through cancer. But anyways, I was like that muffin. I was, my father delivering it, my sister making it for me, and me being able to sit there and eating it was just pure joy.
Mm.
to fill me up, fill my cup up.
Do you think you would have had the same degree of joy or appreciation when you were 20 if you had gone through that experience?
Um,
And I'm asking that in the larger context, which is what makes you happy now that's different from when you were in your
20.
20s, let's say, or 30s?
So 20s, I was skipping around happy about everything, right? I was, you know, graduated from college, got a job, got my first car. It was like so many things, so many new things happening that you were like in this. I think believe I was in this period of just awe of, oh, right. Yeah, things happened that weren't great, but they didn't overwhelm me,
Mm.
right? They were like, oh, like I was just so thrilled I had my own apartment.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, I imagine, you know, having an illness really makes you sit back and reflect on life. I think probably at every age, it brings you closer and closer to who am I and what am I trying to do with this one precious life?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I want to live my life? So I think at any age you probably have that kind of self-reflection when you have a major thing happen to you.
Yeah,
But what I thought was joyful back then really was a lot of materialistic things, right? Because they were on my list.
right.
So when someone brought me a muffin, that was like, yes, someone would love built me something and brought it to me, and right.
Mm. And that element of the connection that you started out with, so present in that experience.
Yeah. I can still smell the smell of this lotion that somebody I worked with gave me when I was home with thyroid cancer.
Mm.
It was just delightful. Like when I'll be someplace and I'll smell it, like it is so in me, like what people did for me back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, oh my gosh, people are going way out of the way to be kind to me.
I recently, a couple of days ago, I talked to a client that I had worked with, and she turns 84 in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And she had to go into the hospital, unexpected diagnosis, which rocked her world. And all she could talk about was how great the care was, how important that was in the process of going through testing and procedures and all of that. And that was what she talked about. It wasn't about how could this happen to me? It's not fair. Is this the way my life is going to end? None of that. It was just, I'm at peace. I'm so grateful. It was it was so humbling because she saw the truth of that moment.
You do see the truth of that moment. Like there were so many people that were so kind to me. Like I can even see their faces right now. Some of these nurses and they're just so kind. You can only see the humanity, right? You can only see people giving you love. That's all you see.
Mm.
And so the key is, how can I keep seeing that?
So
How do
how
I
do
I
you
don't want
keep
to fall
seeing
back. I
that?
don't want to fall back asleep, right?
Right. So good
Yeah, so
metaphor. How do we do
yeah, so
that?
I kept on this journey of discovering my joy every day, and I feel like it empowers my life to be more present. And when I'm not present, when I find myself in my own head with my own stories, I have to stop and I take a breath. And I say, okay, what do I want to do now? Because I've just woken up. How can we stay awake? So that the only thing that really matters is the love that we have to give other people.
And maybe that's part of the definition of happiness.
Hmm.
Maybe it's, happiness equals love. Because it's right. It's the same thing if I'm loving my cat or if I'm loving my tea or loving the gift of a conversation with another person like you. It's there. It's so present. That love, that connection, that essentialness of
Yeah.
what we get to have as human beings.
Yeah. And one of the things I wrote on the top of my page because I went to look at it because you just said that, because yeah, it's be in love with this life. Be in wonder of this one life we've been given and share your love. Like it's I had the top of my page love in print in quotes. It's that's where it's at.
Yeah. So going back to what Sabrina was saying, which is how do
Yeah.
I love myself? It's again, it's not ego, it's not personality. It's about how do we share this, as Rupert would say, our essential being.
Yeah.
Where are we
I
doing it?
love
Where are
him.
we not? I don't. Where do we do that? Where can we do more of that?
Yeah, and that's where I feel that it's being aware, self-aware and self-reflecting and asking myself, where can I have more grace? Where can I show up and be full of grace? And that means something to everybody. Like this is not a one thing. Like this is like once you start to realize, like give everybody permission to be human, everybody's going to do everything differently. But if they're coming from this one spot of, you know, I believe I want to give the best I can to everyone around me.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that when you're with people who are like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it feeds you back up. Like it reminds you, oh, it does matter that I show up being.
Yeah. Yeah. That look, when two people come together and they are looking at each other's eyes and that connection is there, it's just unforgettable. It's just permanently emblazoned in your being. It's like, I see you.
Yes, I see the real you.
Right. Or to put a different spin on an old Pogo cartoon, when I look at you, I see myself. Not for the
Yes.
bad things, but for
No,
the truth, the love.
for the for the divinity in you.
Yeah.
Like namaste. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Amazing.
So I found the one poem, and I think this is probably a good one to end on.
Okay, good.
So calmness helps the mind see clearly. So when we self-reflect, we got it. That's what we're trying to calm ourselves down. Calmness helps the mind see clearly. Comparisons reinforce our anxiety. Patience creates space for growth. Anger ignites fear-based reactions. Joy appears in the present moment. That's young Pablo. I love this stuff.
Boy, for a relatively young man, he's quite an old soul.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Boy.
And like he's an example of someone you could journal. Like I can just read a poem and journal about that poem. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even about anything, but just what do I think about that poem? Right.
Right. Inside out living.
Yes.
Right. Wow. Well, I I'm almost hesitant to read more about your bio because this is such a profound poem that you just read us. So what I'll do is ask you instead, if you don't mind, to tell us where people can reach you. Are you on
Yeah.
social media, LinkedIn, your email, your website?
So it's funny you should ask me that because I'm trying to figure that all out again, right? But I'm Bonny Boice, BonnyBoice at gmail.com, and it's bonnyboice.com. And so you can find me with my own website, you can email me, and I am on LinkedIn, but it's Bonny with a Y and Boice with an I.
And then when you the listener or the viewer, whichever you are at this moment, when you go to her website, you'll see that she has over 35 years of experience, leadership experience, and she's just amazing. And I'm so glad you were able to join me today.
I am honored that you asked me to talk to you today because you're a delight to speak with. So thank you.
Takes one to know one. So, whoever you are, wherever you are listening to this podcast, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned. We'll see you on the next one. So, bye for now.